Don't mean a thing if you ain't got that swing. It don't mean a thing, all you gotta do is swing. Makes no difference if it's sweet or hot. Just give that rhythm every little thing you've got. It don't mean a thing if you ain't got that swing.
Expect the unexpected. Jazz has been called the sound of surprise. It scares people. When a musician decides to play jazz for a living, he becomes an outlaw. People who dedicate their lives to creating surprise are kind of scary, especially to authoritarian regimes. This is the first place the Nazis sent people who don't like to be told what to do. Dachau, the first concentration camp, opened 6 weeks after they came to power in 1933. During this time in Germany, people were being taught to march in step. But when the step is improvised, different every time like with jazz, it's hard to define, let alone control. They did try to police it. The most obvious place to start was with what had become a rather hot instrument on its own, the radio.
Mit dem heutigen Tage spreche ich ein endgültiges Verbot des Nigger Jazz für den gesamten deutschen Rundfunk aus. Today I declare a total ban on nigger jazz on the whole of the broadcasting system. We want the German people to rejuvenate their cultural and moral life. We reject hot music and all elements of jazz. Das pharisäerhafte Erschauern vor einer Synkope lehnt der Nationalsozialismus ebenfalls ab. I remember the shock I experienced in 1935 when, before a microphone like this, the Ministry of Propaganda, Joseph Goebbels, prohibited everything like jazz, swing, or syncopated music. At that time, I loved my music so much that I couldn't live without it. I even got a nickname, Swing Dog. Later, during the war, I had a special carrying case with my beloved records, which I played around the battlefields of Western Europe. In 1936, a German record firm asked me to help them in sorting out from the American releases jazz records on Brunswick for publication in Germany, and that's what I did. This is the place, the Delphi Palace in Berlin, where I held 3 record recitals in 1936 on the different aspects of jazz and swing and dance music and so on. I played, among others, Don Redman, Chick Webb, Ella Fitzgerald, the Casaloma Orchestra, Duke Ellington, of course, and especially Nat Gonella, who was a big favorite at that time with the German public. But Nat Gonella was not a favorite of the officials, so I have a quote here. Circulars were sent out to dealers with a tax on fat swallow and especially Nat Gonella. Here it says, "This pompous, creaky style of singing and over-hot instrumentation goes against the very nature of us German people."
The flat-foot flutie with the Floyd, Floyd. The flat-foot flutie with the Floyd, Floyd. The flat-foot flutie with the Floyd, 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 Floyd.
I was studying in Königsberg at the university in East Prussia, and north of Königsberg on the Baltic Sea is a nice seaside resort, and we often went there to bathe in the sun. And one day I was lying there, and next to me was a young couple with a portable, and they played American records. And when they came to a Nat Gonella record, I saw that two stormtroopers, SA people, approached, took the Nat Gonella record, broke it before our eyes, and stomped on it.
Saxophonetik.
The philosophy of the Nazis was everything that was Aryan was good, was approved of. Everything that was not Aryan was deteriorated, despised. For instance, the Negroes, and they tried to make jazz music ridiculous by describing it as Neger music, nigger music, or even music from the jungle.
In 1937, the Nazis turned to eradicating Jewish music. Jews like Gershwin and Benny Goodman had been at the forefront of swing. For other Germans, musical nightlife continued. Swing hits were played under disguised titles. For Germans, St. Louis blues was known as sauerkraut. For Jews, even going into a nightclub was by now forbidden. Jewish jazzers were thus doubly outlawed.
Then when I first was interested in jazz music, I wasn't allowed to go to the clubs, but I took off my Jewish stars. I was about 16 years old, 15, 16, and 17 years, and even it was forbidden, I was going down and listening to music. Later on I played also there. Once I played at the Rosita bar, and there was a control of the SS, and he was standing beside the bandstand where I was playing, and I went to one of the SS men and said, "Listen, I'm underage and I'm a Jew. You should have taken me now." And he was laughing. So it was a great joke, but it was the truth.
Not long after this, the war grew nearer and nearer. I still had a little bit of work in the record industry at that time, but at the beginning of 1940, I had to retire from this and put on a uniform and go to war.
The war had begun, and in Hamburg we had a group of more or less 300 or 400 young people who were pro-British by their education, by their taste, by their feeling, and who were in favor with jazz music. And so I think that was the way when jazz music and swing became a kind of opposition, a form to be in opposition against the Nazis.
We used to have the record, change the records right here, actually.
Yeah.
Literally right here. One boat was over there, the other one was there. You yelled across the jetty, "Have you got a tisket to tasket?" No.
Under the dictatorship of Hitler, it became the taste of a forbidden fruit. Jazz became a kind of communication between young people who were not conformed with the Nazis. In societies where you have no right to speak your mind out, you find out other languages. The language of your look, of your, the language of your behavior, the language of your how to speak, how to smile, how to wear your hat. You find out other ways of communication, including music. So what you were forbidden to say by words, you could say by Duke Ellington, by Louis Armstrong.
My heart gets a chill, I feel such a thrill, my feet won't keep still when they swing that music. Rhythm like that puts me in a trance, or you can't blame me for wanting to dance.
I think the Nazis were afraid of this music by their contrary feeling of life. They really hated jazz music, as they hated the English way of life or the American way of life. We recognized another swing by his look. They had a certain look, by his hair, by the way he wears his cravat. So another way was you go to the other and ask him, drawing his button, and ask him, now what's going on? What's happening? And when he answers, alles wird gut, in this term, alles wird gut, which means everything becomes good, and it's the term of boom, 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 the sign of the BBC London and the V of the Morse alphabet, the sign of victory. Then it was all right. It shows he was listening to the BBC. The button was the radio knob. What was going on? Alles wird gut. Boom, 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 boom.
This is London. London calling in the home, overseas, and European services of the BBC and through United Nations Radio Mediterranean.
As the Wehrmacht forces swept across Europe, swing music as a form of opposition spread. In France, young people saw that anything the Nazis hated couldn't be all bad. In Paris, the Germans were alarmed by hordes of swing fans, dressed English style, who call themselves Zazus. Even in the fatherland, swing expressed popular resistance.
As young as I was, I had the feeling I couldn't live in Nazi Germany. The swing music was the first step on my way to resistance. So when later a Gestapo man said to me, when he saw me the second time, this I could have promised to you. Your kind of high treason began with a tune by Duke Ellington and ends with a plot against the Führer. And I think he was right. I think he was right. The swing music was my very first step on this way. And finally I got in contact with a resistance group called the White Rose. I was arrested. I came into the Gestapo prison, Fuhlsbüttel. Concentration camp, Fuhlsbüttel. Many political opponents of the Nazi regime went through this door into imprisonment. Many of them were badly treated and tortured. Some of them committed suicide or were murdered. Himmler himself ordered that swings were to be arrested, and came into the concentration camps. From a letter Himmler wrote to Heydrich, then the Gestapo chief, I read from an English translation. All group leaders, male and female, and teachers who are hostilely inclined and who support the swing youth are to be sent to a concentration camp. There they must be given a beating and then perform the most severe exercise and labor. Or the stay in the camp must exceed a period of 2 to 3 years. Heil Hitler, yours Himmler.
Germany calling. Germany calling.
We now present Lord Rothart speaking to England. To say that the British Empire is in danger today would be a very feeble understatement. Never before has it been in such a perilous position.
This was the age of radio, and the more the war intensified, the more there was also a war of the airwaves. And from the British Isles came propaganda with swing. So the answer of Goebbels to this was twofold. First of all, he issued a ban on listening to foreign broadcasting stations, and later on it says here, in special cases, in heavy cases, you could be sentenced to death. But despite the ban, people still listened to foreign broadcasting stations in cellars like this. And remember, they risked their lives.
We used to listen to the radio, and it was dangerous, of course, during the war. Listen to foreign stations, listen to the news, and to swing music by Glenn Miller from London. And we had a very hard time. Of course, we must be very careful. And somebody denounced me, and so I got in a labor camp in East Germany. I got denounced by my landlady.
Goebbels put on the market a special radio set, like this one here, cheap, around 10 pounds, which he called Volksempfänger. But the public soon dubbed it Goebbels Schnauze, which means Goebbels gob. And the object was this. It was medium wave, that you could listen only to local broadcasting stations. And there you heard propaganda, of course, propaganda with music, with light, not really swinging German dance music.
Ja, aber Musik kann ich doch hören. Paris, schicke Musik, Pariser Luft, nackige Mädchen, was?
Du, das ist auch verboten. Du kannst deine Tanzmusik auch von deutschen Sendern hören. Pass mal auf.
Well, we didn't care that much about this sort of German dance music with a Nazi touch, a slight Nazi touch, and we considered that sort of music corny, and we liked more the swing sounds from America and England. I'm from Frankfurt, and I got interested very strongly in jazz music when I was 12 or 13 years old, and met the friends who led to the founding of the Hot Club Frankfurt, which was also then a political club, when I was 15 years old. It was two ways to play jazz. One way to play it on records. My parents had a place in Frankfurt, you know, where I played it even in the restaurant.
And that was also a meeting point for friends who liked to listen to jazz, but it was also dangerous because it could have been that someone was in the restaurant where we could get a note to the Gestapo, and then that was a dangerous thing. The second way was to playing instruments ourselves. That was actually the main focus on the Hot Club, that all these had been musicians or amateur musicians playing jazz. Not dance music or whatever, but real jazz, nothing but jazz. You know, it's really a sort of feeling, you know. It's like the rhythm, you know. If you have a march beat, you know, it's all squeezed in, it's forced. If you have a jazz beat, you know, you feel free, you feel better, you know. And I think the Nazis didn't want to tolerate a free beat. We listened to the music by listening to the radio. But naturally, listening to the radio was a one-time affair, you know. Once we heard the song one time, you know, and it was gone. And to get the chance to study the music more carefully, Heine got a lot of thought about, and he built up a sort of a recording studio in his home, in his flat. And since Heine has preserved all this, you know, we had been able to rebuild his studio from the war times, and I see this now since 40 years for the first time again. I still don't know how to operate it. Heine knew all this because it was his idea and his invention.
Oh, that's a cutting machine, turntable. There's a system for cutting. That's a system for reproducing, for playing. Now I start, and I will record. I'll try to record with this old system. Maybe it goes. Yes, it works. I need a brush to clean it up.
To the morning after, because many of you may not have been able to hear your favorite radio show last.
Listening to swing on the home front could lead to a death sentence. On the real front line, the Nazi leaders were so concerned to keep up the troops' morale, they sent touring swing bands to entertain them. But there was a final sinister twist from the propaganda virtuoso, who decided that swing, the music decreed unfit for Germans, could serve the Nazis.
Goebbels' second part in his plan was to form his own swing and jazz orchestra, so he could send jazz back to where it came from and where it belonged. And the name of this was Charlie and his Orchestra, and it consisted of the best and hottest jazz musicians he could find in Nazi, German, occupied Europe.
But you were the kind who would hurt me, desert me when I needed you. Yes, you're driving me crazy. What did I do to you?
I was the drummer in the orchestra. We play swing, jazz, music, and we got a singer. He was singing the first words and chorus normally. The second chorus, it was done in propaganda style.
That Churchill dead man with his wars and things pulls forks round by his apron string. One for Churchill and his bloody war. I wouldn't feel yet so doggone sore. Got the blackout blues, yeah, blue as I can be. That man got a heart like a rock cast in the sea. He yet won't let folks live as they want to be. Doggone it.
the music what we have played was arranged by the propaganda ministerium from specialists. And the people was listening in other countries. The music must be so good that they thought at first it's from their own country. And then it comes the propaganda between. That was the idea by the natives. Goebbels, he likes jazz, maybe. I think so, because he engaged us band and he knows that we have been jazz musicians. We all was happy to get this job because we have not to go to the military, no industry, and so we make also money. They pay us good.
Good money perhaps, but the songs that kept Charlie's band busy and away from the Russian front came straight from the Nazi hymn book. On 4 sessions a day, Freddie added tasteful backing to lyrics like these. To place again the Germans beneath the Jewish star, onward to the shambles, goy cattle that you are.
If one really feels jazz, likes jazz, listens to jazz, lives jazz, then he cannot be a Nazi. It's impossible. With jazz, you don't conquer the world by force. You conquer the world by brain, by feeling, by love. Nazis, they didn't love each other. They hated each other. That's why they killed so many people.
From 1941 onwards, Jews from all over Europe were shipped to a Czech barracks town called Terezin. Run by Jews, Terezin seemed to offer new arrivals respite from persecution. It was, in fact, a staging post for Auschwitz. Through these gates passed 140,000 Jews. Only 20,000 were to survive. One of the inmates was the Berlin guitarist, Coco Schumann.
Well, if I describe Terezin, it was a real town. There were no barracks because before they were occupied by military people. And built from brick houses. And if you had a little bit more to eat than the usual one, life seems quite normal. People were dying of hunger mostly, or of sickness because there were not enough medication. There were people starving there. To play music at all was possible because they also wanted to show the whole world that there was in the concentration camps a normal life. I was going around the street and suddenly came to a place was written coffee house. So I went in, and in a back room there was a break, but there were all the musicians. So I said, I'm a musician too, and they had a guitar there. Could I play something? I said, okay. So I played Honeysuckle Rose, and they're all very astonished that I could play all this American stuff, and that was it.
From a Terezin inmate's diary. One was allowed to go to the cafe house for only 2 hours, once a year. We knew it was not a true coffee house which one could leave to go to one's family or friends. There was no gossip or laughter. People sat listening, some with tears in their eyes. For us, it was 2 hours of escape, of make-believe. The main attraction was a big band called the Ghetto Swingers.
We had a Jewish star, of course, on our breast, but we were decent dressed, and all the boys came in jackets. They had shaved them, and and they looked like a band. And we started to play, and the Red Cross, the committee, and the ambassadors, and what kind of people they were, they even applauded.
The film preserved forever an illusion in which Terezin, the ghetto, briefly became a holiday camp full of happy children, nearly all of whom were to perish. The Red Cross were completely fooled. Their report, never published, reveals that the Commission thought life in Terezin was comfortable. They liked the music. The film's director, Kurt Guerin, posted an announcement. A football match will be filmed tomorrow, September 1st. We will round up spectators from the barracks. Please, no old people under any circumstances. The Nazis solved this problem by shipping 7,500 of them to Auschwitz.
So we made the film, and the trumpet player, who played third trumpet, he was an engineer actually, Erich Vogel, who was my band boy, and Erich Vogel was my bodyguard.
Yeah.
He slapped the music, and he arranged with everybody. Yeah. You have to come to rehearsal and this and that.
He was enthusiastic, very enthusiastic about music.
He was enthusiastic, but he was a poor trumpet player.
I know.
Erich Vogel.
Erich Vogel.
Yeah. Erich Vogel. Yeah. I was in his house, and he played me records he made from
in America.
Yeah, in America.
That's the poster of
the Ghetto Swingers.
The Ghetto Swingers. Yeah, I think Martin and Erich Vogel made it. Okay, good.
Erich Vogel.
That's Fritzig.
Yeah. That's Fritzig was Prague's first #1 saxophone player.
Jesus. Drawing for Fritzig. You knew that before, the drawing? Seen it?
No, I never seen it.
He played like Benny Goodman. Everybody knew Fritz Weiss. We arrived at Auschwitz. We had to go to the selection. That meant to go to Mengele. And Fritzig wanted to go with his parents and asked Dr. Mengele, can I go with my parents? And he smiled and said, okay, if you like to, you go with your parents. So he went with his parents to the gas chambers. And then I was next, and he said, how old are you? So, got the blue eyes, you know, said in real Berlin, ik ben 18 jaar, Sturmführer. I said, so, what's your profession? I said, a plumber. You're a plumber, can you work? I said, and how? You go to the other side. So he sent me to the labor site. Then I went to a barrack. There was a couple, and he said, Coco, my name is Heinz. So in that moment, he was a capo and pretty, lots of influence. And he said, tonight, if you want to, you can play. We got instruments here. They got instruments from the gypsies. They were a couple of days before went to the gas chamber. So I had a guitar Gypsy used to play before, and so it was the first night that I arrived in Auschwitz, I made music. Each section of the camp had a band, and each of the capos wanted to have the best band from the camp, so there was a competition. Everybody tries to be the best one, had the best band in the camp. if you are very good, you got more food, and maybe you got more chance to be safe from the gas chamber. We played music first for the SS. When they went, there was a tattooing going on. Most of the people were tattooed. And the SS had to watch that each one of them had get a tattoo. And it was a very boring job, so we had to come and play for them. And then we had to play on a door of the camp when the people went to work and also when they went to the gas chamber. We played La Paloma for them when they went out. We never would have survived without music. Music saved our life, saved us for the gas chambers.